Beloved seekers of truth, dear family of dreamers, let me ask you something that will keep you awake tonight. What if I told you that there are invisible laws governing money, laws as real and unchangeable as gravity, and that 99% of people will die never knowing these laws exist? What if I told you that 2026 could be the year everything changes for you? Not because of luck, not because of timing, but because you finally aligned yourself with principles that have created every fortune in human history. Would you listen? Would you believe? Or would you dismiss it, like so many others, and wonder years from now why wealth never found you? Too, respected viewers, I've spent a lifetime observing money, how it flows, how it grows, how it disappears. And I've discovered something profound. Money doesn't care about you. It doesn't care about your dreams. It doesn't care about your struggles. It doesn't care if you're a good person or if you work hard. Money only responds to laws. And these laws, they're not taught in schools. They're not discussed at dinner tables. They're not revealed on social media. They're hidden in plain sight, waiting for those rare few who are willing to look beyond the surface, beyond the noise, beyond the lies society tells about wealth. Today, I'm going to share with you the 10 laws of money. Not theories, not opinions, laws. Principles that have stood the test of centuries, that have built empires, that have transformed ordinary people into extraordinary wealth creators. But I must warn you, knowing these laws and actually following them are two completely different things. Most people will hear these truths, nod their heads, feel inspired for a moment, and then return to exactly the behaviors that keep them broke. Don't be most people. You are own and money flows to value creators, not time traders. Let me take you back to a conversation I had with a young man, bright fellow, college educated, working 60 hours a week at a prestigious company. He came to me frustrated. I work harder than anyone I know, he said. I'm at the office before sunrise. I leave after sunset. I've sacrificed everything. So why am I still living paycheck to paycheck? I asked him a simple question. How many people benefit from your work? He looked confused. What do you mean? When you work those 60 hours, I said, how many lives are improved? How many problems are solved? How much of value do you create? He thought about it. Well, I help my boss look good. I complete projects. I do what I'm told. Exactly. I said, you're trading time for money. And time is limited. There are only so many hours you can sell. You've hit your ceiling, and you don't even realize it. Here's the truth that will shake your world. Rich people don't trade time for money. They create systems that deliver value to thousands, millions of people, and they get paid a little bit from each one. Think about it. A doctor trades time for money. She can see maybe 30 patients a day. Her income, no matter how skilled she is capped by the hours in a day. But the person who creates a medical device, that device helps thousands of doctors treat millions of patients. The value is multiplied. The income is uncapped. A teacher trades time for money. She can teach maybe 30 students at once. Her impact limited by physical classroom space. But the person who creates an online course, that course can teach 30,000 students. The value is scaled. The wealth is inevitable. This is law number 1. And until you understand this, until you shift from trading time to creating value, you will always be trapped. I knew a woman, call her Sarah. She worked as a graphic designer, talented, creative, but paid by the hour. She was exhausted, constantly chasing new clients, never able to take a vacation because if she didn't work, she didn't earn. Then one day, she had an idea. What if instead of designing custom logos for individual clients, she created logo templates that small businesses could buy and customize themselves. She spent 3 months working nights and weekends, creating a library of 200 professional templates. Then she put them online, priced them at $29 each. She made $300. Barely worth it. The second month, $900. By month 6, she was making more from template sales than from her design work. By year 2, she quit her job. The templates were generating $15,000 per month while she slept, while she traveled, while she created new products. Same skills, same talent, different model. She stopped trading time and started creating value at scale. That's law number 1. Tu Yolabe Numbi RDW wealth is built in private, displayed in public now. Let me tell you about two brothers. I'll call them Marcus and James. Both inherited $50,000 from their grandfather. Both were in their late 20s. Both had similar jobs and lifestyles. Marcus, he couldn't wait to show the world he'd made it. He bought a luxury car, $35,000, financed the rest with a loan, posted pictures on social media. His friends were impressed. He upgraded his apartment, bought designer clothes, started eating at expensive restaurants. He looked successful. He felt successful. Within 2 years, the $50,000 was gone. And Marcus was deeper in debt than before the inheritance. James, he did something different. He told nobody about the money. He kept driving his old car, kept living in his modest apartment, kept his life simple. But privately, he invested every dollar. He bought dividend-paying stocks. He started a side business. He educated himself about real estate. For 5 years, James looked exactly the same on the outside. His friends probably thought he was struggling. Nobody knew he was building an empire in secret. But by year 7, James owned 2 rental properties. His investment portfolio was worth over $200,000. His side business was generating $5,000 per month in passive income. He was wealthy. But nobody knew it, because wealth is silent. This is law number 2, and it's the law most people violate every single day. We live in a world of performance. Everyone's trying to look rich. Designer bags, luxury cars, exotic vacations, all carefully curated for social media. But here's what they're not posting: the credit card debt, the car payments, the rent they can barely afford, the anxiety about next month's bills, the complete absence of savings or investments. They look rich, but they're broke. Actually, they're worse than broke. They're in debt, trapped, desperate. Meanwhile, real wealth is being built quietly, in brokerage accounts nobody sees, in businesses nobody knows about, in real estate holdings that don't photograph well. The truly wealthy, they drive old cars, they wear simple clothes. They live below their means. Not because they have to, but because they understand something profound. Every dollar spent on appearing wealthy is a dollar that can't create wealth. I remember walking through a parking lot once at a very exclusive investment conference. This was an event that cost $10,000 just to attend. The room was full of millionaires and billionaires. And you know what I saw in that parking lot? Toyota Camrys, Honda Accords, 10-year-old trucks, practical, boring, unremarkable vehicles. These people worth tens of millions, were driving cars that a middle manager might drive. Why? Because they understood the car doesn't make you wealthy. The car costs you wealth. Every month you spend $600 on a luxury car payment. That's $600 that could be invested. That could compound. That could grow into thousands, tens of thousands over time. But instead, it's gone, burned, converted into a depreciating asset that loses value the moment you drive it off the lot. So here's what I'm telling you. In 2026, if you want to get rich, you need to make a choice. Do you want to look rich, or do you want to be rich? Because you can't have both. Not at the beginning. Not when you're building. The luxury lifestyle, the impressive possessions, the social media validation, that comes after you've built the foundation, after the wealth is secure, after the passive income is flowing. But if you chase the appearance first, you'll never get there. You'll be trapped forever in the performance, spending every dollar you earn, and then some just to maintain the illusion. Build in private. Win in silence. Let your bank account know you're rich long before your neighbors do. That's law number 2. Years a do NMBR tier, your income is determined by the problems you solve. Let me tell you about a conversation that changed someone's life. A young man approached me once. He was working as a customer service representative, making $30,000 a year, struggling, frustrated. The system is rigged, he told me. People like me will never get ahead, the rich get richer. The poor stay poor? I let him finish. Then I asked, what problems do you solve in your job? He shrugged. I answer phones. I help customers with basic questions. I process returns. And how many people could do your job? I asked. He thought about it. I guess a lot of people. It doesn't require special skills or education. Exactly, I said. You're solving easy problems. Problems that millions of people can solve. So the market pays you accordingly. He looked offended, but I continued. Now, what if you learn to solve harder problems? Problems that fewer people can solve. What would happen to your income? This is law number 3, and it's mathematical, unavoidable, unchangeable. Your income will always reflect the difficulty and rarity of the problems you can solve. Solve easy problems. Get paid like everyone else who can solve easy problems. Solve hard problems. Get paid like the rare few who can solve hard problems. It's not about fairness. It's not about what you deserve. It's about supply and demand. It's about a value. If you can do something that 10 million people can do, your skills are not valuable. They're as common. And common skills command common wages. But if you can do something that only 10,000 people can do, now you're rare. Now you're valuable. Now the market competes for you. I watched that young man over the years. He took my words to heart. He started learning. Nights and weekends. He taught himself data analysis, then programming, then machine learning. It took 3 years. 3 years of sacrifice. 3 years of learning while his friends partied. 3 years of staying in while others went out. But by year 4, he landed a job as a data scientist. $80,000 per year, more than doubled his income. By year 7, he was leading a team, making $140,000, plus stock options. Same person, same work ethic, different problems being solved. He went from answering basic customer questions to solving complex data challenges that helped companies make million-dollar decisions. The market rewarded him accordingly. So let me ask you, what problems do you solve right now, today, in your work, in your business? Are they easy problems, problems anyone could solve with minimal training? Or are they hard problems, problems that require specialized knowledge, rare skills, deep expertise? Be honest with yourself, because here's the hard truth. If you're not earning what you want to earn, it's because you're not solving valuable enough problems. And the solution, it's not to complain. It's not to blame the system. It's not to demand higher wages for the same work. Is to become more valuable. To learn harder skills, to solve bigger problems. In 2026, the world doesn't need more people doing easy work. It needs people who can solve the problems that AI can't solve. The problems that require creativity, judgment, emotional intelligence, strategic thinking. Those people, they'll thrive. They'll prosper. They'll be in demand. Everyone else, they'll struggle. They'll be replaced. They'll wonder why the world left them behind. Which group will you be in? That's law number 3. Compound interest is the 8th wonder. But only if you start. Let me tell you a story that breaks my heart every time I think about it. 2 friends. Let's call them Daniel and Rebecca. Both 25 years old. Both working their first real jobs. Both earning about the same income. Daniel, he heard about investing, about retirement accounts, about compound interest. And at 25, he started investing $250 per month. Just $250. Less than what most people spend on entertainment and dining out. Rebecca, she meant to start. She really did. But there was always something, a vacation she wanted to take, a car upgrade she needed, an apartment that was just a little nicer. I'll start investing when I make more money, she'd say. When I have more room in my budget. When things settle down. The years passed. Daniel kept investing. Every month, like clockwork. Market up, market down, didn't matter. $250. Into a simple index fund. Nothing fancy. Nothing complicated. Rebecca kept waiting. Kept meaning to start. Kept finding reasons to delay. 10 years passed. Daniel had invested $30,000 of his own money. But his account, it was worth $48,000. The market had grown. Compound interest was starting to work. Rebecca, still planning to start. Still waiting for the perfect moment. 10 more years passed. Daniel, now 45, had invested $60,000 total over 20 years. But his account was worth $172,000. The compounding was accelerating. His money was making money. Rebecca, she'd finally started investing at 35. Better late than never, right? She'd been investing for 10 years now. Same monthly amount as Daniel. But her account, only $48,000. Same contributions over the past 10 years. But she was missing that crucial first decade. That decade where Daniel's early money had time to compound and grow. By the time they both reached 65, Daniel's account which received a total of $120,000 in contributions, was worth $1,200,000. Rebecca's account, which received $90,000 in contributions, was worth $420,000, nearly 3 times less, not because she invested less money, but because she started 10 years later. 10 years, that's all. 10 years of delay cost her $800,000 in wealth. This is law number 4, and it's the most unforgiving law of them all. Time is the multiplier. Time is the magic ingredient. Time is what transforms small amounts into fortunes. But time doesn't wait. It doesn't pause. It doesn't give you a second chance. Every year you delay, every month you put off starting, every week you spend instead of invest, that's time you can never get back. And the cruel mathematics of compound interest, they work backwards too. The later you start, the exponentially harder it becomes to catch up. I see young people today, in their 20s and 30s, living like they're millionaires, spending everything they earn, sometimes spending more than they earn, designer clothes, latest phones, expensive brunches, luxury vacations, and I think, you have no idea what you're sacrificing. You have no idea that the $5,000 you're spending on a vacation could become $100,000 by retirement. You're trading your future wealth but they present pleasure. They can't feel it. The future is too abstract, too distant, too unreal. All they see is, I work hard. I deserve to enjoy life. You only live once. And they're right, you do only live once. But here's what they don't understand. You can live broke once, or you can live free once. But you can't do both. The choice you make in your 20s and 30s determines everything about your 50s and 60s. So here's what I'm begging you to understand in 2026 is start. Just start. Even if it's $50 a month, even if it's $25 a week, even if it feels insignificant, start. Because that insignificant amount, given time, becomes significant, then substantial, then life-changing, but only if you start, only if you give compound interest time to work its magic. The perfect moment will never come. You'll never feel completely ready. There will always be something else you could spend the money on. Start anyway. Your future self, the 65-year-old version of you, will either thank you or curse you for the decision you make today. Which will it be? That's law number 4. Alumni MBRFI. The best investment you can make is in yourself. Now, let's talk about something most people completely misunderstand. They think investing means buying stocks, buying real estate, buying crypto, buying things. And yes, those are investments. But they're not the first investment you should make. The first investment, the one with the highest return, the one that changes everything, is investing in yourself. Let me tell you about a man I'll call Thomas. Thomas worked in sales. Good job. Decent income. About $60,000 a year. He'd been at that level for 5 years. Comfortable, but stuck. One day, he saw a course, an advanced sales training program, 6 months long. Cost $5,000. $5,000 he didn't really have. It would wipe out a chunk of his savings. It felt risky, uncomfortable. He almost didn't do it. But something inside him said, what if this changes everything? So he signed up. He committed. For 6 months, he invested in himself, learned new techniques, new psychology, new strategies for closing deals and building relationships. Within 3 months of completing that course, his income jumped to $85,000. He was closing bigger deals faster, with less effort. Within a year, he was making $110,000. Within 2 years, he'd been promoted to sales director, $160,000 per year. That $5,000 investment returned more than $100,000 in increased annual income. That's a 2,000% return. Show me a stock that does that. Here's what most people don't grasp. When you buy a stock, the best case scenario, maybe it doubles. Maybe it triples over several years. That's considered excellent. But when you invest in your skills, in your knowledge, in your capabilities, the returns are unlimited, exponential, life-changing. Learn a new skill, and you might double your income. Master a rare expertise, and you might fax your income. Become an authority in your field, and there's no ceiling at all. I knew a woman, a teacher making $42,000 a year. She was passionate about education, loved her students, but she was drowning financially. She spent $1,000 on a course about online teaching and course creation. Huge sacrifice for her. That was nearly a month's salary after taxes. But she learned. She applied. She created an online course teaching other teachers how to manage difficult classrooms and connect with challenging students. The first year, she made an extra $8,000 from that course. Already 8 times return on her investment. But it didn't stop there. She created more courses. She built a following. She became known as an expert. Within 3 years, she was making $70,000 a year from her online courses while still teaching. Her total income had more than doubled. By year 5, she'd left teaching to run her education business full-time. $200,000 per year from a $1,000 investment in herself. So let me ask you something. How much did you invest in your own education last year? Not school, not required training, but voluntary investment in making yourself more valuable. Did you buy books, take courses, attend seminars, hire coaches or mentors? Or did you spend your money on depreciating assets, on entertainment, on temporary pleasures? Because here's the truth. Your earning power, your ability to create wealth, is directly tied to what you know and what you can do. If you're the same person this year that you were last year, with the same skills, the same knowledge, the same capabilities, then your income will stay the same. Or worse, in an economy that's always changing, you'll fall behind. But if you commit to growing, to learning, to becoming more valuable, then your income inevitably will grow too. In 2026, here's what I want you to do. Take 1% of your income, just 1%, and invest it in yourself every single month. If you make $50,000 a year, that's $500, $42 a month. Buy books, take online courses, attend workshops, learn skills that make you more valuable. Do that consistently, and I promise you, your income will not stay at $50,000 for long. This is law number 5, and it's the law that creates the fastest, most dramatic transformations. Because you can't control the stock market. You can't control the economy. You can't control most external factors. But you can control how much you know, how skilled you become, how valuable you make yourself. Invest there, always, relentlessly. That's where fortunes begin. 2C lo number 6 Debt is a tool for the rich, a trap for the poor. Now we need to talk about something controversial, something most financial gurus get completely wrong. Debt. You've probably heard it a million times. Debt is bad. Avoid all debt. Pay cash for everything. And you know what? For most people, that advice keeps them safe, keeps them from drowning, but it also keeps them poor. Because here's the truth. Debt, used correctly, is how wealth is built. Debt, used incorrectly, is how lives are destroyed. The difference. Understanding which debt builds and which debt buries. Let me show you 2 scenarios. Person A takes out a $30,000 loan to buy a brand new car. It's beautiful, shiny, makes them feel successful. The moment they drive off the lot, that car is worth $25,000. It's lost $5,000 in value in 5 minutes. Every month they pay $600 for 5 years. That's $36,000 total for a car that will be worth maybe $12,000 when it's paid off. They've destroyed wealth, burned money, trapped themselves in a monthly payment that limits every other financial choice they can make. That's bad debt. Debt that finances depreciating assets. Debt that makes you poorer. Now, person B takes out a $30,000 loan to buy a small rental property, a modest house that needs some work. They fix it up, rent it out. The rent covers the mortgage, plus a little extra. The tenant is essentially paying off the loan for them. 5 years later, they still owe some money on the property, but it's now worth $45,000. It's appreciated, and they've built $15,000 in equity, using mostly other people's money. Plus, they've been collecting a few $100s a month in positive cash flow. That's added up to thousands of dollars over 5 years. They've created wealth, built equity, generated passive income, used debt as a tool. That's good debt. Debt that finances appreciating assets. Debt that makes you richer. Here's what separates the wealthy from everyone else when it comes to debt. The wealthy use debt to buy assets. Things that go up in value. Things that generate income. Things that work for them. The poor and middle class use debt to buy liabilities. things that go down in value, things that cost money to maintain, things that drain them. And here's the devastating part. Both groups pay interest. Both groups make monthly payments. Both groups are using the exact same financial tool. But one group is building wealth, and the other is destroying it. The tool isn't the problem. The application of the tool is everything. I remember a young couple who came to me for advice. They had $60,000 saved. They were proud, felt responsible, felt smart. They wanted to buy a house, pay cash, avoid debt. We don't believe in mortgages, they said. I asked them, what if instead of paying cash, you put 20% down? That's $12,000. You get a mortgage for the rest. Then we'd have debt, they said. Would owe the bank money. Yes, I replied. But you'd still have $48,000. What could you do with that? They looked confused. You could invest it, I continued. Put it in the stock market. Historically, that money would grow at about 9% per year. Your mortgage interest, maybe 4%. You're earning 5% on that money. While the house appreciates, while you build equity, while you get tax deductions on the interest. I watched their faces as they did the math. Over 30 years, I said, that $48,000 growing at 9% becomes over $600,000. But if you spend it all on the house, it's gone. You have a paid-off house, but no other assets. You've put all your eggs in one basket. They didn't take my advice. They paid cash, felt safe, felt proud. 10 years later, I heard they were struggling. The house had appreciated some, but they had no other investments, no emergency fund, no retirement savings. All their wealth was trapped in that house, illiquid, inaccessible. Meanwhile, couples who used leverage wisely, who kept cash invested, who understood how to use debt as a tool, they'd built diversified portfolios, multiple properties, stock investments, true wealth. So here's what I need you to understand about debt in 2026. Not all debt is evil. Not all debt is good. It depends entirely on what you're using it for. Debt for consumer goods. Cars, clothes, vacations, entertainment. That's almost always bad. It destroys wealth. Avoid it like poison. Debt for appreciating assets, real estate, businesses, education that increases your income. That can be incredibly powerful. When used wisely, it accelerates wealth creation. The key is this: never borrow money for something that goes down in value. Only borrow for things that go up in value or generate income. Follow that rule and debt becomes your servant. A tool that helps you build wealth faster than you ever could with cash alone. Break that rule and debt becomes your master. A chain that keeps you trapped for decades. That's law number 6. 2RAWUMBR Savian, your network determines your net worth. Let me tell you about two men who started with almost identical backgrounds. Both came from middle-class families. Both graduated from state universities with business degrees. Both started working at age 22. Both were intelligent and hardworking. The first man, let's call him Kevin, he kept the same friends from college. Good people. Fun to be around. They'd meet up for beers, watch sports, complain about their jobs. His social circle, they were all in the same boat, making similar incomes, facing similar challenges, living similar lives. The second man, I'll call him Alex, he did something different. He deliberately sought out people who were ahead of him, who had achieved what he wanted to achieve. He joined professional organizations. He volunteered for charity events where successful people gathered. He reached out to mentors. He made himself valuable to people who were more successful than him. His friends thought he was being fake. Social climbing, they called it. But Alex didn't care. 10 years later, Kevin was still hanging with the same crowd, still complaining about the same problems. His income had barely grown. He was comfortable, but stuck. Alex. His life was unrecognizable. Through his network, he'd gotten investment opportunities that weren't available to the public. He'd learned strategies from people who had already succeeded. He'd been introduced to clients who could actually afford his services. He'd found business partners who could scale what he was building. His income had grown by 10 times, not because he was 10 times smarter than Kevin, but because he was in rooms that Kevin didn't even know existed. This is law number 7, and it might be the most uncomfortable truth in this entire conversation. You are right now the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Look at your closest friends, your regular social circle. What are their incomes? What are their ambitions? What are their habits? What do they talk about when you're together? Because I can predict your future with scary accuracy by looking at your circle. If your friends are all broke, you'll stay broke. If they're all complainers, you'll keep complaining. If they're all comfortable with mediocrity, you'll never reach excellence. Not because you're not capable, but because the environment shapes destiny. Now, I'm not telling you to abandon your friends. I'm not saying you should only care about people who are useful to you. But I am saying you need to be intentional about who influences you. You need to actively seek out people who are where you want to be, people who think bigger, people who've already solved the problems you're facing. And here's what's beautiful. The most successful people, contrary to popular belief, they're often more generous with their time and wisdom than average people, because they understand that helping others rise doesn't diminish them. But you have to show up. You have to bring value. You have to be someone worth investing in. I knew a young woman starting a business, struggling to get traction. She wanted to learn from someone who'd already built a successful company in her industry. So she researched, found the person, reached out, but she didn't ask for a meeting. She didn't ask them to mentor her. She didn't ask for anything. Instead, she sent them a detailed analysis of their business, opportunities she'd noticed, ideas for improvement, value delivered first with no expectation of return. That person was impressed. They invited her to coffee. That coffee led to advice. That advice led to introductions. Those introductions led to opportunities. Within 2 years, that woman's business was thriving, not because of her initial skills, but because she'd gained access to a network that accelerated everything. She understood something crucial. Networking isn't about taking. It's about giving. It's about making yourself valuable to valuable people. So in 2026, here's your assignment. Make a list of 5 people who are where you want to be in 5 years. People who've achieved what you want to achieve. Then ask yourself, how can I add value to their lives? How can I help them? How can I serve them? Not what can they do for me? That's amateur thinking. The question is, what can I do for them? Because when you genuinely add value to successful people's lives, without expectation, they remember, they reciprocate, they open doors. Your network becomes your net worth. That's law number 7. Financial education is more valuable than money. Here's a story that will break your heart. A man won the lottery, $18 million. Can you imagine? Financial freedom, set for life, every problem solved. Except within 7 years, he was bankrupt. Worse than broke, he was in debt. Depressed, his family was destroyed. His life was in ruins. How? How does someone lose $18 million? The answer is simple and devastating. He had money, but he didn't have financial education. He didn't know how to invest. He didn't understand taxes. He didn't know how to say no to family and friends who suddenly needed money. He didn't understand how to protect wealth. He had the result of wealth, but not the as mindset of wealth. And so inevitably the money disappeared. Contrast that with someone who builds wealth slowly, who starts with nothing, who learns gradually over years how money actually works. They understand compound interest. They understand tax strategy. They understand asset allocation. They understand risk management. They might only have $100,000, but that $100,000 is secure. It's protected, it's growing, and it will become $1 million because they know what to do with it. This is law number 8, and it explains everything about why most people stay poor, even when they get money. 2, I see this constantly. Someone gets a raise. Their income jumps from $50,000 to $70,000. That's $20,000 more per year. You'd think their life would transform. You'd think they'd start building wealth. But a year later, they're still living paycheck to paycheck. How? Where did the money go? It went to lifestyle inflation, better apartment, nicer car, more expensive habits. Their income increased, but their financial education didn't. So the money just disappeared. Here's what financial education teaches you. It teaches you the difference between assets and liabilities. Most people think their house and car are assets. They're not. They're liabilities. They cost you money every month. Assets are things that put money in your pocket, investments, businesses, rental properties, dividend stocks. Financial education teaches you about tax strategy, how to legally reduce what you owe, how to structure your income and investments to keep more of what you earn. It teaches you about inflation, how your cash loses value every year just sitting in savings, why you must invest to stay ahead. It teaches you about leverage, how to use other people's money to build wealth faster. It teaches you about risk management, how to protect yourself from disasters that could wipe you out. Most importantly, it teaches you to think differently about money. I knew a man who made $50,000 a year. Not much, but he was a voracious learner. Read every book he could find about finance, investing, business, wealth creation. Every year, he'd spend $500 on books and courses. $10 a week. His friends mocked him. Why are you reading all that? You're not rich. What's the point? But he kept learning, kept absorbing, kept growing. And slowly, his decisions changed. He started investing, started a side business, started making smarter choices with every dollar. 20 years later, that man was worth over $2 million. Not because he earned a massive salary, but because he knew what to do with every dollar he earned. He'd spent maybe $10,000 on financial education over those 20 years. That $10,000 that turned into $2 million. Can you calculate that ROI? It's almost infinite. Meanwhile, I knew another man, made $200,000 a year. Great income. You'd think he'd be wealthy. But he never read, never learned, never invested in understanding how money actually works. He spent everything. Thought having a high income meant he was rich. Confused earning with wealth. At 50, he had almost nothing saved. Lost his job. Couldn't find another at the same salary. His life fell apart. High income, zero financial education. And it destroyed him. So here's what I'm begging you to do in 2026. Commit to your financial education. Make it a priority. Make it non-negotiable. Read books. The classics. The Intelligent Investor. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The Millionaire Next Door. Your Money or Your Life. Take courses. Learn about investing, about real estate, about business, about taxes. Listen to podcasts. Watch educational content. Surround yourself with financial wisdom. And here's the key. Don't just consume. Apply. Take what you learn and immediately implement it. Because knowledge without action is worthless. But knowledge with action, that's transformation. If you truly commit to becoming financially educated, then your income almost doesn't matter. You'll figure out how to build wealth regardless. But without that education, you could earn $1 million a year and still end up broke. That's law number 8. Adam nu numbir nen wealth without purpose is hollow now. We need to talk about something that nobody discusses. Something that might surprise you. I've known many wealthy people in my life. People with tens of millions. Some with hundreds of millions. And you know what I've observed? Some of them, despite all that money, despite all that success, are deeply, profoundly miserable. How is that possible? How can someone have everything and feel empty because they violated law number 9? They built wealth without building a purpose. Let me tell you about a man I'll call Richard. Brilliant businessman. Started a software company in his 30s. Worked 90-hour weeks for 15 years. Sacrificed everything. Relationships, health, joy, all of it for the business. And it worked. He sold the company for $48 million. $48 million, set for life. Free. Everything he dreamed about. For the first month, he was euphoric. He bought a house, a car, traveled. Did all the things he'd told himself he'd do when he made it. By month 3, he was bored. By month 6, he was depressed. Within a year, he was in therapy, struggling with anxiety and a complete loss of identity. I worked for this my entire adult life, he told me. And now that I have it, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what I'm made for. This is the dark secret of wealth that nobody prepares you for. Money, by itself, is meaningless. It's just paper. Numbers on a screen. It can't make you happy. It can't give you purpose. It can't fill the void. What money does is amplify who you already are. If you're purposeful in content, money makes you more so. It gives you tools to live your purpose at scale. But if you're empty and searching, money just makes the emptiness more obvious. Because now you can't blame your unhappiness on lack of money. The excuse is gone. And you're forced to confront the truth. The problem was never money. The problem is meaning. I've watched this play out dozens of times. The entrepreneur who builds a successful company, then sells it, then spends years trying to figure out what to do with their life. The corporate executive who climbs to the top, achieves the title and salary they dreamed of, then realizes they've been climbing the wrong mountain all along. The investor who reaches financial independence, retires early, then discovers that endless free time without purpose is a special kind of torture. They all made the same mistake. They pursued wealth as an end instead of a means. Here's what I've learned from the truly fulfilled wealthy people I've known. They didn't chase money for money's sake. They chased missions. They built businesses that solved problems they cared about. They created value in areas that mattered to them. The wealth, that was a byproduct, a result, a score-keeping mechanism. But the driving force, the thing that got them up every morning, was something bigger than themselves. One man I knew built a medical device company, made hundreds of millions. But what drove him? His mother had died from a condition his device could have prevented. Every device sold was a life potentially saved. The money was nice, but this purpose was everything. Another woman built an education business, became wealthy. But her mission, she grew up poor. Education was her ticket out. Now she was providing that same ticket to millions of others. The wealth funded the mission. The mission gave the wealth meaning. 2. So let me ask you something crucial. Why do you want money, really? Beyond the surface, beyond financial freedom and security, what would you do with that freedom? How would you spend your time? What problems would you solve? What impact would you make? Because if you can't answer that, if you're just chasing numbers, you're setting yourself up for the same emptiness Richard experienced. But if you know your purpose, if you understand your mission, if you're building wealth in service of something greater, then money becomes rocket fuel. It accelerates your impact. It amplifies your purpose. It transforms from an end into a tool. And that is when wealth becomes truly fulfilling. In 2026, I want you to do something radical. Before you make another financial goal, before you set another income target, before you plan your next investment, get clear on your why. What do you actually care about? What problems in the world break your heart? What would you do even if nobody paid you? Find that, clarify it, write it down, then and only then build your wealth strategy around that purpose. Because I promise you, a life spent building wealth without purpose is a wasted life, no matter how much money you accumulate, but a life spent in service of something meaningful. With wealth as a tool to amplify that service, that's a life well lived. That's a life without regrets. That's a life that matters. That's law number 9. The ability to delay gratification is the ultimate predictor of success. Now we arrive at the final law, the most important law, the law that determines, more than any other factor, whether you will succeed or fail. It's not about intelligence. It's not about education. It's not about connections or luck or timing. It's about one thing. Can you wait? Can you sacrifice today for tomorrow? Can you endure discomfort now for freedom later? Can you say no to immediate pleasure in service of long-term gain? Because everything we've discussed today requires this one ability. There was a famous study done decades ago, the Stanford Marshmallow Experiment. Maybe you've heard of it. Researchers brought young children, 4 and 5 years old, into a room, put a marshmallow in front of each child. Then they made an offer. You can eat this marshmallow right now. Or if you wait 15 minutes without eating it, you'll get her 2 marshmallows. Simple choice, right? Then they left the room and watched. Some children, they couldn't wait even 30 seconds. They grabbed the marshmallow immediately. Instant gratification won. Others, they struggled. They looked at it. They were tempted. But they waited. They distracted themselves. They covered their eyes. They sang songs. Anything to make it through those 15 minutes. And they got their reward. 2 marshmallows. But here's where it gets interesting. The researchers followed these children for decades, tracked their lives, their outcomes. And what they discovered was staggering. The children who could delay gratification, who could wait for the second marshmallow, they had better lives, measurably better, higher SAT scores, better jobs, higher incomes, more stable relationships, better health, lower rates of addiction and criminal behavior. One simple test at age 4 predicted their entire life trajectory. Why? Because the ability to delay gratification is the foundation of every significant achievement. Want to get in shape? You need to delay the gratification of junk food for the long-term reward of health. Want to build wealth? You need to delay the gratification of spending for the long-term reward of financial freedom. Want to master a skill? You need to delay the gratification of easy entertainment for the long-term reward of expertise. Everything worthwhile, everything that actually matters, requires you to sacrifice now for later. And here's the tragedy. We live in a world designed to destroy this ability. Social media gives you instant validation. Online shopping gives you instant purchases. Streaming gives you instant entertainment. Credit cards give you instant spending power. Everything in modern society is engineered to give you what you want right now, and it's destroying people's ability to build anything meaningful. 2. I watched a young man once, talented, smart, full of potential. He wanted to start a business, had a great idea, could have been successful. But every time he saved a little money, he'd spend it. New phone, night out with friends, small vacation. I'm only young once, he'd say. I deserve to enjoy life. Every time he had free time to work on his business, play video games, scroll social media. I'll start tomorrow, he'd say. I need to relax. A year's passed. The business never happened. The wealth never materialized. The potential wasted. All because he couldn't delay gratification. He couldn't sacrifice present pleasure for future gain. Contrast that with another person I knew. Woman in her 20s, same potential, same opportunities. But she made different choices. When her friends went to expensive restaurants, she stayed home and cooked. When they bought new cars, she drove her old one. When they scrolled social media, she worked on her skills. For years, she looked like she was missing out. Her life looked boring, less fun, less exciting. Her friends pitied her. Live a little, they'd say. But by 35, she owned 3 successful businesses. She was financially independent. She traveled when she wanted, worked when she wanted, lived on her own terms. And those friends, still working jobs they hated, still living paycheck to paycheck, still waiting for life to start. Same starting point, completely different outcomes. The difference: one person could delay gratification. One couldn't. 2. Here's what I need you to understand. Every wealthy person I've ever known, without exception, mastered this skill. They didn't buy the fancy car when they first made money. They invested it. They didn't move to the expensive neighborhood when they got a raise. They kept living modestly. They didn't chase every pleasure and comfort. They sacrificed strategically to build something bigger. And now they can have almost anything they want because they were willing to wait, because they played the long game, because they understood that temporary discomfort leads to permanent comfort. Meanwhile, most people do the opposite. They choose permanent discomfort by pursuing temporary comfort. They buy things they can't afford, creating permanent debt. They avoid difficult work, creating permanent mediocrity. They choose present pleasure, creating future pain. So here's law number 10, the final and most important law. Your success in 2026 and beyond will be determined by your answer to one question: can you do what's hard now for what's valuable later? Can you invest instead of spend? Can you learn instead of entertain? Can you build instead of consume? Can you sacrifice instead of indulge? If yes, then everything else we've discussed, all 9 previous laws, they'll work for you because you'll have the patience to apply them, the discipline to follow through, the strength to stay the course. But if you can't delay gratification, then none of it matters. You could know every strategy, every principle, every secret, and you'd still fail because knowing without doing is worthless. And doing requires sacrifice. 2, I'll tell you a secret about wealth. It's not complicated. It's actually quite simple. Spend less than you earn. Invest the difference. Give it time. Be patient. That's it. That's the formula. Anyone can understand it. A child could understand it. So why do most people stay broke? Because they can't execute. They can't delay gratification. They know what to do, but they can't stop themselves from doing the opposite. They're like someone trying to lose weight. Who knows they should eat less and move more, but can't stop eating junk food and sitting on the couch. The knowledge isn't the problem. The execution is everything. and execution requires the ability to choose long-term over short-term, future over present, meaning over comfort. So in this final moment, before we close, I want to leave you with a challenge. For the next 30 days, I want you to practice delayed gratification, deliberately, intentionally. When you want to buy something non-essential, wait 24 hours. See if you still want it tomorrow. When you want to scroll social media, close the app. Read a book instead, something that educates you. When you want to eat out, cook at home. Save the money, invest it. When you want to sleep and get up early, use that time to work on your goals. Small sacrifices, small delays, small choices. But do it consistently for 30 days. And watch what happens. You'll discover something powerful, something most people never learn, that you're capable, that you're stronger than your impulses, that you can choose your future over your present. And once you know that, once you feel that, everything changes. Because now you're not hoping for success. You're not wishing for wealth. You're not dreaming about freedom. You're building one delayed gratification at a time, one disciplined choice at a time, one sacrifice at a time. 2. These are the 10 laws, not theories, not suggestions, laws. Principles as real and unchangeable as gravity itself. You can't negotiate with them. You can't shortcut them. You can't hack them. You can only align with them. And when you do when you truly commit to living by these laws, that wealth becomes inevitable, not overnight, not next month, but eventually, certainly, permanently.